Yeah. Hey, if you were flying that aircraft at the time, door blows out, things depressurize, like what's the feeling like as the pilot in that situation? Like what happens to, like what are you feeling on your end, and like how do you handle that situation?
So I think any professional can relate to this, whether you're in medicine or um, first responder. Anybody that's done a lot of training on emergency situations will describe this. And I've had failures on board as well, engine problems, hydraulic losses. You've got so much training drilled into you that your first reaction is actually quite calm. Okay, we've got this indication, and all your training comes flighting in. You certainly get a little bit of an adrenaline boost there, but I would say most people I've talked to that have had failures are all in agreement that your training kicks in.
Mm.
Okay, we've got a loss of cabin pressurization or rapid depressurization issue. That for us on the 737 across airlines is a memory item. So we don't even use a checklist. We just roll right into our script, and it's a
Mm.
script we practice every single flight. So when we get in the cockpit, we do all our checks, program the aircraft. The last thing we do before we go flying is rehearse our lines together on what are we going to do if there's an engine failure, severe damage to the engines, and a rapid depressurization. So,
Mm.
and there's a few other ones that we review as well when we're flying, but those are the ones that we do without fail. Any flight that we do it before we take off. So that crew would have rehearsed that, and so through 10,000 or wherever it happened, they would have just gone right into their script, and that would involve seating the flight attendants. The flight attendants also have their scripts, so even if they couldn't hear exactly what the crew was saying, they'd be strapping in, making sure all the passengers are secure. We'd be turning on all kinds of external lights. We would be setting a lower altitude, making a turn to get ourselves away from other traffic. There's a whole sequence of things that we would just be doing. And even if you can't hear the other pilot, if there's wind noise
Mm.
or whatever, and I know passengers were describing that, you know exactly what that other person's doing. You've rehearsed
Mm.
it so many times.
Yeah.
And then once you're down to a safe altitude, safe airspeed, and you can pull up a paper checklist, cross-check what you've done, and recover the airplane. The whole process maybe takes 10 or 15 minutes max to get
Does it
back
make
on
it
the
really
ground.
hard to fly in a depressurized situation?
It does. It depends on what altitude you were at,
Okay.
the damage to the aircraft. In the case of the Alaskan flight, that plugs quite a ways aft. So the flight
What
deck,
does that mean?
well, the actual hole or the plug that blew out
Yeah.
was so far behind the pilots who have a bulletproof door that's
Mm-hmm.
closed and locked.
Mm-hmm.
They may not have even noticed any sound difference. Certainly they would have noticed that the cabin depressurized,
Yeah.
because you can feel and hear that. But they may have been able to still talk to each other depending on what the altitude was. Either way, they would have had oxygen masks on,
Okay.
and they can talk to each other through their microphones in the oxygen mask. That creates a little bit of a communications challenge, because you can't hear the person as well as when you're just
Mm.
speaking to them back and forth. So that's why the checklist and the drill is so important. Even if I can't hear exactly what you're saying, I know what you're saying because we've practiced it.